Hello everyone and welcome to the next video of the Spelling Essentials video series. In today's video we'll be discussing the Greek language and how useful it is when studying for spelling bees. First of all, let me introduce the Greek language to you. The Greek language is extremely important when studying for spelling bees because of the vast number of words that Greek includes. In fact, Latin and Greek combined equals 60% of the English language, which is an extremely large number for bee officials to choose words from. Also, roots are extremely critical when studying Greek because a lot of the Greek words share the same language roots. So knowing roots of one word can help you identify the meaning and spelling of others. Also, studying mythology is also very helpful in spelling bees. For example, the word Mnemosyne, which came in the Scripps finals this past year, this is an example of a word that's found in Greek mythology. And also, books like Percy Jackson are an enjoyable way to learn this Greek mythology. The first sound we'll be discussing today is the schwa sound, which is pronounced and in Greek the schwa sound is almost always spelled o. For example, normocyte. In normocyte the schwa sound is spelled o in the center of the word. However, as with any language rule, there are a few exceptions. For example, the word etymology, in which the schwa sound is spelled y. The next sound we have is the ah sound. The ah sound is the sound you make when the doctor checks your mouth. It can be spelled with either a or o. For example, arthritis or orthography, sorry. So the ah sound is spelled either a or o, as in arthritis or orthography. One thing to note about the ah sound, you can usually tell which one it's going to be based on the inflections in the pronouncer's voice. Like if you can, for example, you can hear me say arthritis or orthography. There's usually a slight difference which you can pick up on, which will help you identify how to spell them. Next, we have the ah sound, which is a sound which is similar to the sound of someone screaming. So the ah sound is spelled with a. For example, pentathlon or academy. So the ah sound is pretty straightforward. It's spelled with a. Next, we have the a sound. The a sound is pronounced like the long a sound. So the long a sound is spelled with a. For example, geranium and matriarch. So this is another straightforward one. The long a sound is spelled with a. Next, we have the s sound. The s sound is pronounced as in eh, and it can be spelled with either e or g. So the sound can be spelled in either e or eg. For example, phlegm, in which case it's spelled eg, or isopleth, in which case it's spelled with an e. Next, we have the long e sound. The long e sound is spelled with either I, E, Y, or AE. So the long E sound is spelled I, E, Y, or AE. For example, angiitis, in which case it's spelled I, meros, in which case it's spelled O, and archaeolatry, in which case it's spelled AE. Next we have the sound, the dotted schwa sound. The dotted schwa sound is usually pronounced like the short I sound, and it can be spelled I, E, or Y. For example, the word eristic, myriad, or telesis. So that once again, this dotted schwa sound has a slight sound, and it can be spelled either I, E, or Y. Next, we have the true sound. So this sound can be spelled either I or Y. For example, Iliad or dyslexia. So the sound can be spelled I or Y. Next, we have the long I sound, which is pronounced like the word I. So the long I sound can be spelled I, Y, EI, or AI. So this might seem a lot, but usually it's pretty simple to figure out which one is which. For example, the word irony, it's spelled I. The word hydraulic, it's spelled Y. Next, we have the long O sound. The long O sound is simply spelled O. So if you're noticing a recurring theme, all of the long vowel sounds are spelled simply with that vowel. So the long A sound is spelled with A, the long E sound is spelled with E, and the long I sound is spelled with I, and the long O sound is spelled with O. Next, we have the AW sound, which is pronounced like the beginning of Australia. So the AW sound is spelled O or AU. For example, metaphor, autopsy, or hydraulic. Next, we have the OO sound, which is spelled like in food. Which is pronounced like it is in food. So the OO sound can be spelled EU, U, or OU. For example, noose or euphemism or hubris. So the U sound is spelled EU, U, or OU. Next, we have the U sound. The U sound is pronounced like U. So this is essentially the long U sound, and it can be spelled U or EU. For example, catechumen or pneumatic. So the U sound is spelled U or EU. Next, we have the F sound. So this is one of the more common language rules that you'll hear based on Greek. So the F sound is spelled with a ph all the time in Greek. So that's something to keep in mind. Anytime you hear the F sound and the word is Greek, it's going to be spelled ph. There's like there's next to no exception to that rule. For example, the words amphibious, phenomenon, and philanthropy. Next, we have the j sound. So the j sound can be spelled with a G. For example, geometry, gynarchy, or angelic. So the J sound is spelled with G. Next, we have the TH sound, which can be spelled TH or PHTH. So the TH sound can be spelled TH or PHTH. For example, phthisis, which is spelled PHTHISIS, or lethargy. Next, we have the T sound or the T sound. The T sound can be spelled with a T or a PT. For example, pteranodon or etymology. So the T sound is simply spelled with a T. Next, we have the N sound or the N sound, which can be spelled with N, GN, or PN. So it can be spelled N, GN, or PN. For example, pneumonia, gnome, or endemic. Next, we have the K sound. So the K sound in Greek is almost always spelled CH. For example, chronology or notochord. So the K sound is almost always spelled CH. Next, we have the R sound. So the R sound is one of the trickiest sounds in Greek. It can be spelled with RH, RRH, or R. So the R sound can be spelled RH, RRH, or R. For example, rhinoceros, Qatar, or asterisk. So this is one of those language patterns which, if you know roots, will help a lot. For example, rhinoceros, you'll know that the root rhin means nose, which is spelled RHIN. So that's the way you'll know it's a single R at the beginning of words. Also, just using logical common sense can go a long way with helping figuring out the spelling of words. Next, we have the S sound. So the S sound is also a very tricky sound in Greek. It can be spelled with either S, C, SS, or PS. So the S sound can be spelled S, C, SS, or PS. For example, synchronous, psychology, Odyssey, or homogeneous. Next we have the Z sound or the Z sound. It can be spelled with either X or S, depending on the root of the word. So, in which case it's spelled X, it usually comes from a language root. For example, xenophilia, that has a root xeno meaning foreign, so it's going to be spelled X. Or we have or we have it just normally, as in which is spelled S. For example, the word sarcasm, which is spelled S, or cosmos. And that concludes all of the language rules that we have today. Next week, we'll be discussing more language rules, preferably of a different language, most likely going to be Latin. So thank you so much for watching.